Welcome to Learning Through Math, the podcast. I'm Laura at I Teach the Why.
I'm Karina at Mrs. Cousins 5. Our mission is to inspire ourselves and others to keep learning and improving with passion.
And hugs! You can find us at learningthroughmath.com and on Twitter at Laura and Karina.
Come and join us on this journey of learning.
Thanks for joining us. We are recording this in July of 2020.
And welcome to episode 6, Engaging Students While Distance Learning. And I just want to shout out to Jamie on Facebook who inspired this episode. She really encouraged us to talk about this subject. We wanted to wait until our district made
a final decision, which they did at around, 10:30, 11 o'clock last night?
No, it was after midnight.
Oh my gosh, those poor people. They had been on
know.
since 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was after midnight. I couldn't stay up. I was like, I have to turn this off and
at around 10 o'clock, I just turned on the Hallmark channel because I just
it
couldn't
was
anymore.
Too much. So many decisions, and you can't please anybody.
And people have to realize we are literally in the middle of a global pandemic, and we all have to give each other grace and kindness.
Yeah.
We had a discussion right before this about what do we call this episode, and
because there's so many names.
Right.
For online learning, virtual learning, distance learning,
homeschooling.
Yes.
And that's a whole different idea.
Yeah.
But I said we should go with distance learning just because we're away from our kids, right?
Yes.
When I think of online learning, I think of a corporate platform that's already prepared. Virtual learning, I would say that, again, that's another like corporate online platform. To me, distance learning just says, we're still together but apart.
Right.
Yeah.
I do want to go back to, reflection is like my big...
What we always need to do.
Yeah, and I always go back and reflect on what I've done and what I've said, and in the classroom, outside of the classroom. And one thing that I was thinking about our cute little sayings,
yes.
There's another one that, in math, unfortunately, kids get taught tricks.
So many of them.
And I tell my students... There are no tricks in math. We are not magicians. We are mathematicians.
Nice.
I'll also flip that and say, sometimes I'll say, it's not magic, it's math.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so either way, it's something that we just continue to say in the classroom.
I'm going to steal that one from you too. There's 3 things we really think our focus should be for this episode. And one is going to be, we're going to talk about relationship building. Another one, we're going to talk about programs, websites, or apps conducive to student engagement. And then also time management, not just for the kids, but for the teachers. Because we're all in a state of overwhelmingness right now.
Yeah. And the hardest thing with distance learning is that it's sitting there on your desk all the time.
All the time.
So you step away from it, at the end of the day, at the
Quote,
end of the school day, but really
you don't.
You go back to it. Like that. Well, that was the hardest thing for me. It's just I continued to work until 9, 10 o'clock at night.
And one thing that I got better with is I only used my computer during the school day for school stuff. And then when I was, quote unquote, finally done, whatever time that was, I shut my computer and then I did my fun personal stuff on my iPad.
Right.
To kind of separate it mentally.
Right.
Now, of course, when I was on my iPad, did I go on Twitter and look stuff up? And of course I did, because that's what I do. But to me, that's the fun part.
Right. All right, so let's get started with building relationships.
This one is key. I'm going to a new school. I don't know any of the students.
Right.
Never met them. I know one staff member.
And they don't know you.
No, they don't know me either. I know one staff member because she was in a training that I facilitated years ago. But that's it. I've met my principal and assistant principal over Google Meet.
Right.
And we talk, but that's not the same as face to face.
Yeah.
So what are some things that you think we should do to build relationships? What are some things that you plan on doing to build the relationships with brand new kids that you've never had either. They might have seen you in the building, but they were fourth graders. So now they're in your class.
Yeah, and I know a lot of schools have this idea of keeping the same kids in the same class.
Right.
Which was a good way to do it, because then at least they know each other. But our school did not decide to do that. So
I think my new school decided to do
they?
that. My old school did not.
Yeah.
So we have that whole social emotional learning, we call it morning meeting, that our whole district, it's an initiative in our whole district. I think that is going to be an absolute key where we have to have the kids somehow in coming onto the computer at that time, whatever that time is going to be.
Right. I mean, one thing that I did in our
spring,
in our
crisis management
was to do a lunch bunch. So I had students sign up for it and list like 2 or 3 friends that they wanted to participate in it. And what ended up happening with the girls just wanted to sit with all of them. So I just kind of opened it up to all the girls, and they came in, and some of them showed up and some of them didn't, and that was okay. And we just sat and we had our lunch. So like it was a regular lunch bunch.
Was it like a weekly thing?
No, I mean, I wanted to do it as a weekly thing, but like
of course,
it got crazy there at the end, especially
because they wanted to be together all the time.
Yes, and it was funny because I had, in the afternoon, I would open up for like a half hour if they had any questions or if they wanted help, but it was always the same kids coming. So really we were socializing every day at the end of the day with those kids who really wanted to and needed to.
So it was kind of your afternoon meeting.
Right. So I think it's just important though to have those kinds of opportunities so that they can see each other and talk to each other. And a lot of them, I mean, they're fifth graders. So a lot of them already have their numbers. They have cell phones, most of them. They are
your school.
Yes,
maybe
my school.
Not my school.
They have a group chat.
Yes.
So they are socializing.
Well, they're snapping, they're gramming, they're
TikToking,
all of the ings.
Yes. So they are socializing, but I still do think that it is important for them to socialize with us.
Yes.
And still like in an academic kind of safe area.
So one thing I did this summer was my principal had opened up a Google Classroom for the school. And I think, I don't know if it was just a select group or whatever. I think there's about 30 kids in there. And I told her at the beginning of the summer, I said, I'm going to still do Wonder Wednesday. It's a thing that I've been doing at the previous 2 schools. I want to do it now. So now I'm just recording myself and putting it up there. And I have 4 to 5 regular kids that have been participating in it. So I feel like I've already gotten to know them because each week I've asked a specific question that has nothing to do with the Wonder Wednesday question. So it might have been, what's your favorite color? What's your favorite book? What's your favorite movie?
Yes.
What's your favorite... I'm trying to remember the other things that I did. But just so that, I could connect with them on another level, not just academic. So as I showed them the form in my video, I answered the question first so that they got to know a little bit about me.
Yeah. You just reminded me of what I did for the morning question.
In your classroom?
In Google Classroom.
Okay.
Every day I would ask a question, but I would also find a YouTube video, a short animation clip, and there are hundreds of them on YouTube.
Oh, I'm sure there's billions.
Yeah. And they're good. They're like sweet. Some of them are sweet. Some of them make you think. Some of them are inappropriate. So you have to make sure that you view them first. But the kids, it was like a highlight of their day.
Give me an example. I don't know what you mean.
It was one video that I picked had to do with having butterflies in their stomach.
Okay.
And a lot of my students didn't know what that actually meant.
Oh my gosh.
So one expression, so first we had a conversation. The question was, what does butterflies in your stomach mean? And because remember, I also have ELL students in that class. So those
this
idioms,
was perfect. Yes.
they don't know them. And then the second part of that question was, when was a time that you had butterflies in your stomach? So they shared their experiences.
Did you get to share yours?
I didn't on this one because it was just a morning question, but it was something that we talked about later on when we met that same day, so live. But after, when I sent the survey out to see, what the kids liked, a lot of them said that was the highlight of their day. To watch that film. It was just an easy way to start your day. And it was an attendance question, but really it was just fun. It was just a fun way to start.
Wow.
And they weren't long. Some of them, the longest video was 9 minutes. The shortest was like 3.
Wow. The second part that we wanted to talk about was programs, websites, or apps conducive to student engagement. I don't know about you, but I was so overwhelmed in the spring with everybody saying, oh, look at this, it's free, this is free, this is free, look at this, look at this, look at that.
There's a lot, and there's a lot out there.
So I think what people need to realize is maybe just pick one and stick with it. And you know what? If you find that you don't like it, switch to something else.
Right.
But really, whatever we start using, we should keep using.
Right. You don't want to overwhelm the kids either. That's what happens. But I also want to say, you might want to have a few in your pocket so that it doesn't get stale.
True. And maybe we use one program for 6 weeks and then change it up or something like that. Because we know that even in a traditional setting, it takes a solid 3 to 6 weeks for the kids to learn your routines.
Yeah.
So this is just going to be another routine. I agree with you, though, that at some point things do need to be switched up.
Yes. Let's discuss some of them. We're not going to go into depth with them, but we will link them in the show notes. So if you wanted to
explore,
get more information about them, they're there.
So the ones that you're going to list are basically your favorites.
Yeah. Top of the list is Pear Deck. Pear Deck is an easy way to make your slides interactive. So what that means is I have a slide up, like a regular slideshow that I've created on Google Slides. Our district uses Google. Right. Yep. You can download it for PowerPoint too.
Okay.
And the kids can see the slideshow on their monitor, on their screen, but it also asks them questions. So they can either type in an answer, drag an icon for their choice, circle something, draw something. There's lots of different options there, but it's engaging for students because they are now participating in the live lesson. And as a teacher, you can see their responses.
Okay.
And
I'm
download
gonna have to
them.
check that out.
Another great one is Flipgrid. I know a lot of teachers have been using that. It's a great video discussion that you can have with kids. So check that out if you don't know Flipgrid. Nearpod is one that I just found just this week with our district. I think that they've purchased a subscription for it. And it's very similar to Pear Deck. So I'm really excited.
Well, since I don't know Pear Deck, I'm not going to get excited about Nearpod either.
Well, I think you should look at Nearpod. I think you would like it.
Okay.
Nearpod is great. Of course, BrainPop is a great platform to use with informative videos, and they're engaging, and the kids love them.
And I do like the questions at the end.
Yes,
Like
there's other things
the
along
little
with
quizzes.
it. The last one I want to just discuss too is GeoGebra. There's different apps that you can search for, and the manipulatives are like they can move and they can do stuff. Right, it's like visual models that can be seen. So that's another great one.
Is that free?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just talk about 3 really quick. Jamboard, which I have to get myself familiar with. It's in our Google Suite that our district has, the license to. You showed me this morning, whiteboard.fi.
Yes.
So I totally have to look at that. And the third one that I'm going to mention is Braining Camp, which is another virtual manipulative platform. It is not free, but they do have free trials. You also just showed me Do Inc. What?
Yes.
What? That looks so fun. I'm going to have to explore that one.
Yeah. And there's a whole, listen, this is a deep rabbit hole you can go into, right?
Yes.
So there's this whole idea of gamifying your classroom. Alice Keeler has posted blog posts on it, has created free templates that you can use, you can download, which I've downloaded, but I haven't played around with it, but I'm really looking forward to doing that. There's Tech Like a Pirate by Matt Miller. There's a teacher on Twitter that I follow too, Michael Matera, and he talks about gamifying your classroom.
Okay, that's a whole different level. You're there. You're there. I am not there.
But it's important to have those resources available.
Yes.
We encourage you to look at them. And if you have others, please let us know, because I'm always looking for, diving deeper into that rabbit hole.
Yes. The third topic we really wanted to stress was about time management.
Yeah, and we discussed quickly at the beginning how important it is to step away from your computer when the end of the day comes.
I think we also need to keep in mind a couple things. One, less is more.
Yes.
Two, let's not just use these platforms for the sake of kids using them. Like, let's have a point for it.
Yeah, and I think that that's what happened in March and April and May, right? Because we didn't know what we were doing. We were just trying to survive.
And really, so many of us were we were sincerely doing the best that we could.
Yeah.
And I don't think people know how many hours we put into it beyond our contract day. And do we represent all teachers? No. You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about is moving from Googling to thinking. I saw that on We Are Teachers on Facebook the other day, and I thought, ooh, that's really, really important. We can't just have those low-level, remember Bloom's taxonomy, the recall, level 1 kinds of questions, because I love that quote that you reminded me of from Alice Keeler, that if we can Google it, it's obsolete.
Yeah.
Forget it. There's no point in that if that's the end goal. Right? And yes, there are things we need to know and memorize. After our kids are with us in our live lessons or they watch it on video later, I think a really important thing to keep in mind is, what's our end goal for these kids? We want them to become thinkers, not just doers of whatever subject we're doing. We don't need robots. We don't need regurgitators. We want them to think. 2 sites that I absolutely love are Open Middle.
Yes.
Robert and Annette have given us a great platform for that. If you have not looked at openmiddle.com,
do it.
I can't stress it enough.
It.
And then Enrich, which is the letter N, rich.maths.org. I think it's from the UK. That's another great site of making kids think about the math, not just doing math.
One thing that I've also noticed is that a lot of great resources are free.
Yes.
So if you have to pay for it,
think about it again.
Yeah.
And maybe reach out to us and say, hey, do you know of a free site that does whatever this is?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
One of my favorite books is Good Questions for Math Teaching, which is on our resources page, which we'll also link to the show notes, because it gives those open-ended math questions. Something like, there's some digits missing from here, but here's the difference. What could those digits be? And things like that are the things that get kids excited, I think, because it's also like a puzzle that they're trying to solve.
Right. And any of those low floor, high ceiling type of questions.
Yes. Our challenge for you this week is to take one thing and dive deep into it. Don't go down the rabbit hole of every single platform.
I can't promise that, Laura.
I know, me too. But this is our challenge.
Okay.
Our challenge is for our listeners to go down one rabbit hole, go deep into one site, and give us feedback on it. Because if you know, a listener, if you know a site that we don't know of, that you are like, this is amazing, we do want to know about it.
We do. So you see, we have so many rabbit holes, we can't even keep up with them. But that's okay.
We can't. Thanks for joining us. We'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast and give us a 5-star review on your favorite podcasting platform. We invite you to join the conversation on Twitter by using the hashtag #LearningThroughMath.
We'd love to hear your feedback. Make sure to tag us at Laura and Karina. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
To you too.